Live, 7 o'clock Eastern, coming at you with another episode of Wholesale Wednesday. What is this, number 17?
Is it really?
I think it's 17, yeah.
Oh, man.
Firing it up again.
It doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like we've done that many of them to me.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know, me either. It's crazy.
We're always fashionably late, though, usually like 7:05.
Yeah.
Between something not working, between one of us like being a little bit late.
Well, it's like, I mean, what do we say all the time? It's like we'll wake up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. We got an event at 10 o'clock and we'll still get there late. It's like, what are you doing for 5 hours?
Yeah, I don't get it. Whenever whenever we wind up going to, doesn't matter what it is. It's like trade shows, events, whatever. I don't know. I think it's because we try to like fit more into the schedule. But then again, sometimes I feel like we don't do, like we'll go to the gym in the morning, maybe. Like, I don't know. It's usually just getting coffee for 2 hours. It's usually what it winds up being. That's why if we ever, when we host our events in the future, it's got to start at like 10 in the morning, because if not, we're going to be late. We're going to have been up since like 5, but we're still going to be late somehow.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's amazing. I don't know. It's I've yet to figure it out. So
yeah, but it's crazy because I said this to you. It's like, that's not how I work in the business.
No.
It's like I wake up and I just, like, within 15 minutes I'm working. But for some reason, when we have events, it's like I need like 4 hours beforehand.
I can't. I don't know. 15 minutes. Like I need to wake up a little bit. Like I can pretty much out of bed, but like not to that extent. Even if I like sit down at the computer and start doing stuff, like I'm not functional probably till like 40 minutes in. Like I'm not,
Well, you drink your coffee right away, right?
I've been trying not to. I mean, I've been trying to like get better at like eating a little bit first, and then I don't know. They say that that's better for you anyway. What is it? It's like 45 minutes or something. You're not supposed to drink coffee for, or caffeine.
Well, that's Andrew Huberman says, like, delay caffeine for an hour and a half. But apparently, I was looking into that more, and it's like shady. The evidence on it. It's not like anything substantial health benefit. I think it's better. I like it better because I look forward. I get a better. I get more caffeinated, like from the coffee. It's like it hits me harder. It's like a drug. It hits me harder when I delay it for an hour and a half. And I just got this new espresso machine, which is I got to dial it in. Like the espressos aren't quite there yet. It takes like a few times to get going, but we'll work it out. Anybody just joining now, what was that?
I said it's an art.
It is actually. It's the art of coffee. Yeah, anybody just joining in now, we're live every Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern, Amazon Q&A. If you guys have any questions at all, make sure to drop them in the comments section. We're happy to answer them. That's why we do these. We're going to cover a lot today. We're going to talk about Q4, how to make a lot of money over the next 3 months. We're going to talk about, supplier sourcing, outreach, the whole works. If you guys are watching on YouTube, just make sure to hit the like button. Definitely helps out the videos, helps the channel grow, which helps us keep, pumping out more content for you guys. And let's get right into it. So we were talking before a little bit about what were you saying about providing value to brands and like solving problems?
Yeah, exactly. Like problem solving. I mean, this week in particular, just because whenever we come into these lives, like I like to kind of bring something from the week thus far, into the conversation. And part of that for me this week with outreach was brands that we're already dealing with and solving issues for them that they may or may not know exist already. In this case, it was, I talked to you about it this morning briefly, but it was like a return issue with one of the brands. And so getting on the phone with the owner, 30-minute meeting, having the data set out for him based on our Seller Central, based on like the sales data, all of that, and then laying out exactly what the plan is and the strategy moving forward. And so, all these little incremental things add up to exclusive contracts, they add up to profitability, they add up to all this stuff. But like taking all the steps to solve problems, because that's really what you're doing at the end of the day, is you're solving problems for brands, whether they know that they have them or not. So that was a big part of my week so far. And it's something that's like a constant theme with the brands that we deal with.
Yeah, and with the current brands, a lot of people, don't realize, like, once you grow your business and you have a portfolio of brands, you end up sourcing the suppliers you're already working with, to court these brands into possible exclusivity or selectivity, meaning you're one of a few sellers on the listing. So yeah, no, it's a great point. And obviously, if you guys have any questions, like as we're doing this, just don't be afraid to pop them in the comment section, and we'll answer them as they come in. Heyun Wu, can't exactly pronounce that name, probably not saying it right, but he said we're the goats of brand direct. So appreciate that, man. It's quite the badge. We try, man. We try. I've been at the warehouse all freaking week. I mean, we be getting, like, how many deliveries we get? It's freaking nuts. Like, it's 2 days.
I know the air conditioning has felt good. I don't know about you, but
yeah. Well, I mean,
lack of AC in there.
It's not that hot in there. Like,
yeah, if you get into the summer months, I feel like it gets really bad. I mean, as long as you keep the door open, I feel like that alone is like a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, in the summer, but now it's fine, but it's crazy. I mean, it's like, because we place tons and tons of pre-booking orders with our suppliers. And for anybody watching that doesn't know what that is, essentially it's an order that you place and notify your distributor or whomever, brand, whatever it is, that you're placing a order. It is a hard order, but you're setting a future ship date. You're not paying for it until it ships, sometime in October. But the benefits of doing the pre-booking orders is that, one, it locks in your inventory. So, there's a lot of suppliers we work with where we place these pre-book orders as early as January even. But, most of them start rolling in May, June. And not only does it lock in your inventory, but you get better discounts on the product. That's because you're basically guaranteeing to the brand, hey, here's our order. Maybe we're placing, a half a truckload worth of product, and they don't actually have to break down those pallets. So we're able to order enough pallets where they're going to give us incentivized discounts for ordering the full pallet quantity. And that's all based on data, because we've had a lot of these accounts for years. So we look at past years and what we sold and reorder accordingly. And every year we come back to our brands and our distributors for Q4 and order more than the previous year. And it just, it continues to grow the relationship, right? There's several net 30 accounts, or not net 30 accounts. There's several accounts that we have that both of us have negotiated some really good net 30-day terms on, which, in Q4, that's huge because we have tons and tons of deliveries coming in October. So October is a very cash flow type month because we're outlaying a lot of capital to stock up on inventory in order to get that inventory into Amazon. And then once we sell it all on Amazon, we're going to have that big payout in November, December. We're going to have several big payouts. But again, cash flow is of the essence. So if we can delay the time and shift the burden of inventory to our suppliers' books as opposed to keeping it on our books, now we're really benefiting in our business. I mean, net 30-day terms, it's like, I mean, how fruitful is net 30-day terms? It's like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, another tip on that too is actually, in addition to your credit card terms, you can actually, or I'm sorry, your supplier terms, you can actually, on some credit cards, you can change the date for your statement, like end. So that's huge too, because even if you're a day over your statement end, it rolls into the next cycle. And that's a whole nother 30 days in most cases that you don't have to pay off the inventory. So sometimes structuring things like that. So like, let's say that the statement ends on the 15th and that that order's coming in and you can get charged with that order on the 16th. You've just bought yourself a whole nother statement until that closes. versus if you did it on the 14th, you would have to pay for it at the end of that statement. So it would actually close on the 15th. So that's another factor too. Kind of not so much being a net 30, but it's like,
and you can
almost add another net 30 onto your.
Can you talk with your credit card company and get the date changed on the payment cycle?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all about your credit card company relationship too, just like anything else. But a lot of credit card companies are pretty good with that, and you can change your billing cycle statement. So that's something I feel like not a lot of people talk about, but it's huge. I mean, especially and you find these things out, like when we're making these big purchases, we have to like explore every possible option: funding, credit lines, credit cards, statement dates, like everything. Net 30. And so you got to figure these things out, and the best way to get that cash flow cycle efficient, as you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and this is another thing we were reviewing this week, which is like, we're looking at some of the statements, financial statements, and it's just the importance of cash is, sometimes in this type of a business, really in any business, profit like doesn't even matter on your P&L. Like sometimes that not bottom line number, of course it matters. Like you want your profit margin to be as high as possible, but in the like what pertains to the day-to-day operations is cash flow. So that's what it's all about. It's maximizing cash flow. It's negotiating credit terms. Like you said, it's negotiating with your credit card companies, all in an effort to maximize and optimize the cash flow, because cash comes in and it goes out on a daily basis, and because of that, it's absolutely crucial in Amazon Wholesale to be managing your cash. And the only way you can do that is negotiating better terms and getting better rates and things like that.
And unfortunately, any sort of low margin, high volume business, you're going to have a cash flow intensive thing. And especially like we've talked about, continuing to keep the foot on the gas in the business it's difficult to take money out and pull money out from it. And so, if you're already in a cash flow intensive business like Wholesale, and then you are also not paying attention to your numbers and strategizing and doing the things that you need to do, like your due diligence on things for your cash flow cycle, then I mean, you're already putting yourself in a bad position before you've even bought inventory at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you need to just set aside, like we do, and categorize where your funds are going, so you have your owner's pay, right? Because after a certain point in this business, you want to pay yourself. Well, that's already every Amazon payment. That's a preset amount that comes out of the payment right off the top, right? You gotta, like, it's that whole profit first principle. You got to pay yourself at some point in this business. And if you just keep dumping all your money into inventory, not that I'm not advising against that. I mean, it's worked well for us in the past, but you gotta pay. There comes to a point where you gotta pay yourself, and the easiest way to do that a lot of times is just taking it right out of the Amazon payment. Boom, done, and the rest of it gets into inventory. So we do have a couple questions rolling in here. So the first one is from YouTube. I'm a newer to the wholesale game. How do you factor in the shipping, freight cost into buy cost of products, even when you are sending out to FBA as well? Because obviously wholesale and OA are not the same.
Yeah, so just kind of multi-dimensional question here. I mean, when you're factoring in freight cost, sometimes a supplier will actually provide the freight included with the price on the price list for the item. Sometimes they'll do free freight after a certain tier. It just all depends on the structure of how the supplier has their freight set up. The other elements of it is when you're sending to FBA, we use an estimate per pound. So now you've got things like inbound fees, but you also want to account for everything like the inbound shipping fee as well, because it all adds up to something that we talk about a lot, which is profit per ASIN. And that includes everything to do with that ASIN, which includes inbound shipping. So we like to do about 50 cents a pound as an estimation for the freight cost inbound to Amazon. And then we just account for all of that in making the buying decision. So when we do a price list and we do our sorry, we do our price list, I guess it is a P&L. We do our price list analysis. We're looking for everything included into that buy cost of that product, and that includes shipping it to Amazon. And then if it's not profitable without the shipping, then obviously we're not going to buy it. And just account for it when you're doing price lists.
Yeah, and 50 cents a pound is pretty conservative. So usually that'll work in our favor most of the time. But you're better to aim on the side of caution.
You need to be an absolute ninja too when it comes to the inbound stuff. Like we've learned as we've had more time with this inbound placement. I mean, you could quite literally be, I mean, you're looking at, a shipment of 400 units might be $300 versus $60 optimized versus minimal. Yeah. Right. So like going through and using, all data points to bring your cost down, because you're literally just throwing money away at that point. You're doing the same thing. You're sending the inventory in, and actually optimized shipments, from what we know, has faster check-in times. So, just being like methodical about that as well. Speaking of like inbound and shipping costs is, I mean, you're saving, especially at the scale we're doing, or, if you're doing any sort of 7-figure business, I mean, you're saving thousands and thousands of dollars, or wasting thousands of dollars, depending on how you're treating it,
Yeah, and the guys at the warehouse are great at that, which is what I'm seeing as I'm in there more. It's because it was trained from the top down from the very beginning, and that's once Amazon back in March they switched everything over. Took us like maybe, I don't know, 2-3 months to totally optimize the process, but it's pretty damn optimized, all things considered.
Everything, like, it's funny because you notice over years and years of doing this, every time Amazon makes a big change, everyone is like, that's it, it's over, that's the end. No, I'm quitting. Nobody's going to, right? And then 3 months down the line, everybody forgets about it.
Yeah.
Right. So inbound was one of those things where now we're so used to it, and we just adapt and pivot. And so Amazon and why they did the inbound placement is because they want to get those items closer to the customer to get shipping times reduced, right? But when it comes to on our end, it's just about adapting to the things that they put in place. We can't do anything about it, so you might as well adapt and do your best to, efficiently run your business.
That's all we can do with Amazon.
Jump into the next question here. It says, hey, can you provide an example of the approach you use when reaching out to a brand? If they decline, do you push further or explore wholesale opportunities and look for distributors instead? I'm assuming that means, or explore other opportunities and look for distributors instead. So basically, like, what's the approach for a brand, and if they're giving you pushback, like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, first statement is that it's very case by case, and it's dependent on the situation. But so an example of one approach that we might use when reaching out to a brand is we like to keep things very simple and take the path of least resistance. So 90% of our calls, unless we are seeing something preemptively before we pick up that phone and make the dial, unless we're seeing something like issues with the listing on Amazon or an influx of sellers or something totally wrong with the listing that would trigger us to be like, all right, I'm going to approach this differently. Most of the calls start with, we state who we are, the name of our company, then where we're located, and we say we're interested in opening a wholesale account, and then we ask if we're speaking with the right person for that. And then that'll immediately help us determine if, okay, I am speaking with the right person. If not, they're going to give me to the right person, hopefully. And if the company, which it should be, is a small to mid-sized company, which means that maybe you got to go to 1 or 2 other people to get to that right person, as opposed to a huge brand, you're not going to be able to get in touch with anybody. From there, we'll say the same thing, get that person on the phone. We'll say we're interested in opening a wholesale account. And, they might ask, what kind of business you are. And to which you will say, we're an e-commerce company. And we stock and ship to whatever, our warehouse is located at. And then we go right into and say, we're on Amazon. But when we say we're on Amazon, we immediately deflect it away from Amazon. So it's a kind of a give and take in that approach. But every approach is different, but most of the time we try to take the path of least resistance, which is just get the account, and then, if we're met with resistance, get creative. And then the second part to that question, if they decline, it all depends on the degree to which they decline, which we can only determine on a phone call. We can't determine that on an email. So if we're on the phone and their tonality is such that they're absolutely not interested and they need a brick and mortar store, they need a licensed physician on staff, it's not worth our time. We look the other way. If they're like, yep, here you go, we'll grab the account, great, and see if the products are profitable. And if their tonality is kind of somewhere in the middle, wishy-washy, then that's a good opportunity to probably persuade them into, working with us.
That's the buzzword I was waiting for, tonality. But you can't find that out unless you pick up the phone. So, that's something that calling takes a no and makes it a maybe, right?
Yep.
Email, it's binary. It's 0 or 1. It's yes or no.
Yeah.
So exactly. Next question here says, which I actually just read through, and I could answer this one. See if you have a different answer though. But it says kind of more of a legal type of question. It says, if you have an application from a distributor on the dealer app, it's asking for the social security number of the owner, and how often do you give out social security number on dealer applications? For me, because this is kind of an individual basis, I guess whoever fills out the application, I would say hardly, if ever, and mostly never. Right. So the flip side of that is giving the business EIN, which is probably a smarter move. If you have to, this is kind of up to your own personal answer. And I don't know, Roddy might have a different answer than I do, but I personally don't like to do that. I'd rather give out the business EIN. And that, it's basically, you can treat that the same exact way. So.
Yeah, I don't have
what's your take on it?
No, I mean, I have the exact same answer. Unless they only want your social to run your credit, most likely, because they're probably gonna want some sort of guarantee on, they're not just gonna take the business credit. So I would just, first of all, one thing is, I mean, we haven't filled out an application in 4 years. That all is done by our VA.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. It's a preset. It's say XXX-XX- last 4. That's what I told, that's what I told her to do. And that's, unless they split and then they come back and say, hey, we're not extending credit unless we got to run your credit. It's case by case. I mean, if we need credit with them, maybe, but
most orders are prepaid anyway. So like that's like initial orders. Right. So that's what I would say too, for the person that asked that question, is like Brad said, most likely it's to run the credit. Well, if this is a new account, as you're saying, based on the fact that it's a dealer application, sometimes we get around the fact of even filling out applications or having VAs fill out applications, because we'll say, hey, we're going to prepay the first, couple of orders. And then we'll talk about terms later. And that, not only is it is it true, like we will prepay the first couple orders, but it also helps us get around the fact that it's more work. Like, we want the price list as quickly, as efficiently as possible. Yeah. So if you don't even have to fill out the dealer app, don't even do it.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, we're only going to fill out that dealer app if it's a requirement in order to obtain the pricing. But if they send that dealer app with the pricing, 100%. You run that pricing first. You don't even open the dealer app. Oh, yeah. That pricing is run and you determine it's profitable.
I've literally, I don't know, you've probably done the same exact thing. I have looked at 8-page dealer applications. I've gone on Amazon. I've looked at the product. I've said, nope, not good enough to do this. And I've literally gotten rid of the account. Because again, you're looking at, it's a volume-based thing. So as stupid as that might sound to someone who's new at this, right, saying, oh, that could have been a profitable product. It's after long enough of doing this, what to put your efforts into and what not to. So they're kind of an extended tangent here from the social security number thing. The short answer to that is no, probably don't do that. Put the EIN, ask about prepayment, and then go from there. And don't even do the app if you can get the price list. So
yeah.
Follow-up questions here says, you guys using LinkedIn a lot in your business for outreach? Is it necessary?
I mean, it's not necessary. I think it's a good additional tool. I think it can, help show some further legitimacy, professionalism. I know I've heard like Corey Gainham talk about, how he used LinkedIn with success. It's not really been an integral part of our outreach, but it's definitely a good additional tool to get creative with suppliers.
Yeah. Sometimes it can serve as another level too. If you can't get in contact, there's products sometimes where the products are phenomenal products. They're flying, like they're hitting every single point that we want to hit, but we can't find any contact information for anyone. Like going kind of that route of going on LinkedIn, going on, different websites to try and find contact information, just trying to get on the phone with somebody. And LinkedIn is a good tool for that. So I would use it in addition to however you're sourcing normally. You might be able to utilize that as another tool in your business for outreach.
Mm-hmm. So next question is, how do you manage same ASIN with different expiration date? Do you list with different SKU? So you don't need to list it with a different SKU. So a different SKU just means that it's like you're going to be on the listing twice.
Right, which is not allowed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would it depends on how you're sending the shipment to Amazon. If you're using a third-party API, like, an inventory lab or whatever, all of them have the ability to enter different expiration dates within the same batch. But I honestly think it's easier to just separate your batch of one expiration date and your batch of another expiration date and probably send them separately. I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a completely separate SKU.
I mean, exactly. Like, yeah, creating a separate SKU gets into, first of all, you're not, in terms of service, you're not supposed to have multiple of the same type of offer. So you can have an FBA offer and an FBM offer on the same listing, but you can't have multiple FBA offers or multiple FBM offers, right? So the other aspect of that is that you could actually get screwed up because every single SKU that you have has its own unique FN SKU tied to it. So let's say you replenish the inventory, you created a new SKU, and then you replenish it under the wrong one, and you print out the other FN SKU, you're going to wind up getting basically dinged by Amazon as an incorrect product label because you put in the wrong FN SKU, if that makes sense. So can probably do more harm than good. And I think that just like Brad said, listing it under separate batches or separate shipments is the way to go.
Yeah. And the next question here is, do you guys use UPC scanners like the one built into Smart Scout just to get an initial taste on what? Those are good for big distributor price lists, maybe with hundreds or thousands of SKUs. But we're not dealing in our business with that many SKUs at a time on a price list. Like 20 SKUs on a price list is a lot for us. That's because we work directly with brands. For the most part, we work with a few distributors, but they're generally more smaller to medium-sized distributors. And, so we're not handling thousands upon thousands of SKUs, but you can use, Scan Unlimited. Smart Scout has a tool for that. So if we get a price list, it's got 5 SKUs, like our VA will just run that and, take care of the price list and however long it takes her, so that's how we handle that.
Yeah. I mean, other ones that are good, UPC Scanner and Smart Scout's awesome. We also have used Scan Unlimited in the past. And, it's just one of those things where it winds up not, we don't deal with enough large price lists to justify a consistent UPC scanner. But for someone who's doing distributors, absolutely. Like, because you can't go there. I mean, some of these, it's like, go ahead and give the VA the UNFI,
Yeah.
price list to go through. That's 200,000 lines or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's just impossible without some sort of software. So it's definitely useful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and if you guys still got questions, keep them rolling. We're happy to answer the questions. Um, if this is somebody's first Q4 that's watching, or maybe even their second, what would you give them for advice?
If you haven't prepared now, it's probably too late. But I mean, as like much of a joke as that is, like at the same time, I mean, prepping early is like it's so key.
Yeah. What's
The
the
other
second piece
one,
of advice you would give? Because
yeah,
yeah, I mean that's honestly like the best time was yesterday, but it's
yeah,
like we'll do some RA this Q. You know what I mean? Like retail
right.
arbitrage. Like there's a retail arbitrage opportunity this Q4, and I honestly do think it's not going to be like anything we've seen in the past. But I do think we're going to be dealing with some supply chain issues a little bit this Q4
Yeah,
of the strikes going on the New Jersey ports on the East Coast.
yeah, we
Um,
could touch on that too. That's a
yeah, the
whole.
crane operators are going on strike because they want $1 million a year to operate the cranes. They're already getting paid $500,000, but that's another conversation.
Wow.
It's it could create some. I mean, a couple of our orders have already been delayed a couple of weeks. So I mean, it could create a little bit of supply chain issues. Might be a retail arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah, and the other Q4 advice that I would have to give is, and it sounds kind of simple, but however much you think that you need to buy more. And that's like this, it almost doesn't make sense because we don't just come up and pull these numbers out of our ass, right? Like when we place orders and when we do this stuff, it's all just like very projected, analytical, data driven, all of this stuff. Yet somehow every single year you're out of stock. And it's just like, I think there's an underestimation every single time, and trying to be a conservative risk taker to say like, all right, we're going to make sure we purchase enough. But if this is your first Q4, you're doing retail arbitrage, you're doing wholesale, whatever it is, like assuming it's not too late to place your orders in wholesale, or if you can get the product in quick, order more than you think you need to. Like as weird as that sounds, I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, if it's your very first Q4, you might want to see some more data, and then go back
Sure.
in the second year and
Yeah.
reorder accordingly. I would always tell the beginner seller to err on the side of caution. It's better that you
Mhm.
sell out and lose potential sales rather
Mhm.
than overstock an absurd amount. And then, especially you got a lot of items like that are, in the grocery gourmet food category in Q4. So it's like you got to look at expiration dates and such. And if it's highly seasonal, you don't want to sit on that item until next Q4.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's what's tough about seasonal stuff. But I mean, another way of like rephrasing what I said is you're gonna need to have ordered. You're gonna wish you ordered more.
Yeah.
That's
I
usually.
think that's a good thing for a
Yeah.
new seller to go through and see
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Because next year, and like even when we have accounts that are newer, we're a little more conservative on like err on the side of caution. But the side of erring on the side of caution could still be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So it depends on what level you're at in this game here. But the more Q4s you get under your belt, the more you kind of recognize the patterns, and it just the traffic on e-commerce is crazy. It's crazy. You can literally make, you talked about it this morning on the Instagram. You had posted along the lines of like making during these 3 months, because Q4 just started in October, and you can make basically half the year's worth of your profit for your business in 3 months, which is incredible. So making sure you're preparing, like we talk about, preparing all year for Q4 is huge.
Yeah. It's a very, it's a powerful time. It's really
I have a question.
unbelievable.
What is that? Sorry, cut out there.
I just said it's a very, and October is a good month, but I mean November and December it just starts to it gets ridiculous. The power
Yeah,
of Q4. I mean, it just
exactly.
shit just starts flying. In November and December. I mean, October like is our because October we're going to be slammed as all hell with getting products in because it's all about getting everything out the door.
Mm-hmm.
By roughly the middle to the end of October, and then maybe we have a few shipments going in beginning of November, but especially now we got to get everything early into Amazon, is what Amazon told us. And anybody watching that's not familiar with the current dates right now, Amazon sets soft deadlines every year for basically when you need to have your inventory at their warehouse in order for them to guarantee that your offer is going to be Prime eligible. And the date this year, traditionally, it's always in the past been November 1st to be Prime eligible for Black Friday. This year, they moved that up to, I believe, October 19th. So, I mean, we're not going to get all that in for October 19th. Granted, it's a soft deadline, and a lot of the stuff we're getting in after the 19th is going to go in for Christmas. But at the same time, like, doesn't mean you're not going to sell inventory for Black Friday. It's just, it just means get it in as early as possible. And then the date for Christmas is December 1st, right? So you want to get everything in by December 1st, Prime eligibility for Christmas. And Amazon sets those soft deadlines, basically telling you, hey, you got to get your inventory in. So you know if you're watching, if it's your first Q4 and you got inventory and you're looking to get that stuff, like get it in sooner rather than later, because not only those deadlines, like the check-in times are absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon's telling sellers like ship small parcel over LTL because of just the check-in times and everything. It's
Yeah.
crazy right now.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and so I mean, I think that it's hard for a newer seller to understand that because it's October 2nd today, right? And we're talking like you need to get your stuff in for Christmas, right? Like it's 3 months away. But Amazon works like how a retail cycle does, where you walk in, in January and they're selling stuff for St. Patrick's Day already, right? Like it's the same type of thing. Like get the inventory in as quick as possible, because by the time it takes to process and get available and all that, your Christmas is going to come before you know it. That's why we're talking about this now and not talking about it on December 1st, because by that time it's already too late. And by December 1st, we're going to be trying to figure out what to do with ourselves because there's nothing to do at that point. You told me you said last year you were going to the gym twice a day because you didn't know what to do.
Well, we weren't doing outreach, so it's like, what do you,
Yeah.
like?
No,
But I think this is another good tip here, in a good tip in Q4, December. While it's too late for FBA, it's not too late for
FBM for sure.
FBM. And the benefit of doing FBM, when it starts to become crunch time and Amazon puts their badge next to the buy box that says arrives before Christmas, arrives after Christmas, is that you, as a merchant fulfilled seller, can sell a product at a higher price than an Amazon fulfilled seller, because your shipping time is such that it's going to get there faster to the customer and it's going to get there before Christmas. And that's huge. We've made tons and tons of money doing merchant fulfilled during Q4. We'll do it again this year. It's probably not going to be like COVID years, but we'll still make money doing FBM this year. I mean, FBM is just a great opportunity. A lot of people overlook it.
Got a question here off of Instagram. Says, having your own website, is it a necessity for doing wholesale? Many brands ask about website links, and it seems like those who have their own website have an advantage. What do you have to say about that?
So for the website, if we're talking about like an Amazon services website, where you're reaching out to brands and you're marketing your services and how you can benefit that brand, I would say the website is a nice to have. I think any website, it's a nice to have. It's not a must. Like, it's just, I tell the people all this time, website is not a must. It's a nice to have. It could give you a little bit more legitimacy. It could throw a nice little marketing element in there for the brand. But at the end of the day, it's about picking up the phone and building that relationship with the brand, because we've both closed many accounts that were way out of our league, that the guy, the $50 million company with, the fully built out website that costs them, 5-10 G's a month, didn't get the account, but we did, because we built a relationship over months and years. You know what I mean? So it's all about building the relationship and doing the dials, and a website comes secondary. And we'll give the brand the website if they ask for it. If they don't ask for it, we don't promote it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it is good to have, in the sense where I always use the expression of, like, you don't want to get caught with your pants down type of deal, where they're like, "What's your website?" And you're like, So that's the element of it that I say, make it just on that basis, because that can forward the relationship and provide legitimacy. But like Brad said, it doesn't have to be a, you could pay $300 off of Fiverr and get a fully created website that looks great, that you can use basically forever. So it is a nice to have. But for me, I've been, at the beginning, I was caught too many times with, "What's your website?" and going, "Don't have one." You know what I mean? And that was before, obviously, we created the website. But it just was something that is nice to have, like you said. Actually, a question in here also says, this is kind of relating back to the expiration date thing. If you use one SKU for different expiration date items, would the inventory be first in, first out, like accounting? How would you know which unit has what expiration date if you mix into one SKU?
Well, Amazon's supposed to do first in, first out at their warehouse, but at the end of the day, whatever their employees do is what they do. So a lot of that is outside your control. But you shouldn't even be,
Yeah.
you shouldn't even be questioning your expiration date on that basis. Like, Amazon gives a
Yeah.
window. I forgot the window of time, something like 3 months. Like, they'll flag it, and you can't send in. We could pull that up if we wanted to, what the exact window is, but Amazon has requirements on, how far out you need those expiration dates to be. And if you're on the cusp, don't send it into Amazon unless you're going to move through that inventory. Like, for instance, there's some products we sell in the grocery category where the expiration date, might only be in, April of next year, March of next year, but we know we're going to blow through all of it, well before then, because it's all going to go for Christmas. So we can send it into Amazon. But
Yeah. So it says, I love by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't know when it happened, a couple
AI,
months ago, the Google AI thing, man. That's crazy.
yeah, it's
It's
nice.
really crazy how it's like Chat GPT is just integrated into Google now. So Amazon's expiration date policy requires all products with an expiration date must be good for 90 days from the time which they are given to the customer. So, I mean, that in itself, like, your products need to be good for a long time. So, like, you can't be playing it expires this month, it expires next month type of game. And it says that Amazon will remove units that are 50 days or within 50 days of the expiration date. So it's 50 days, which is kind of a weird number. I feel like Amazon's usually like 30, 60, that kind of thing. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so that's the answer there. Next question is, looking to scale for Q4 for show. Is Viably a good loan option? Have you guys heard of it? Yeah, we've talked with Viably before. They're Amazon focused. Might be worth it for you, depending on what kind of rates they're going to give you and how much capital you're talking. If you're a brand new seller, I always err on the side of caution with debt. You can use debt more liberally when have everything nailed down in the business, I suppose. But if it's your first go around, you don't want to take out 100 grand and lose it all. So,
Yeah.
all of our debt is driven by data driven strategic, buying decisions based on years of purchases in the past.
Yeah.
It's all numbers.
Viably is interesting in that it's a kind of an Amazon tailored, Amazon specific lending company, right? And so one of the issues that if you're looking to get these loans, like if you're applying for a loan from a bank or a line of credit or something like that, a lot of times they ask questions about your business and, how does this work? How does that work? Right. And it's kind of a very loose understanding so that they can go on your behalf to the lender and basically make your case. And with a company like Viably, they already understand this stuff about Amazon. They understand how the business works. And so their lenders are probably more comfortable allocating that money because they understand your business model a little bit better. So that's kind of a, unwritten thing that it might be good to use a company that's Amazon specific, like Viably, if you're looking to be funded with debt. But like Brad said, be careful,
So we got another question here. How do you build a relationship with a new brand? When you say build relationship, what are the components to build it? I mean, there's a lot of pieces, there's a lot of layers to that question. There's a lot of ways to build a relationship. You can build a relationship by purchasing product and creating a relationship from a transactional standpoint. You can build a relationship from talking with them and having conversations and easing their mind, showing them legitimacy, getting on Zoom calls, building up the rapport with them, providing value to them, explaining to them what the problems are. I mean, I could go on forever. There's tons of ways to build that relationship.
Yeah. If I was to sum it up in like one or two sentences, it would be figuring out what their needs are and then providing solutions to their needs is how you build a relationship. And so that includes all those things that Brad just said, right? So, it includes getting on the phone and problem solving and Zoom calls and all that stuff. But the more you talk to them, the more you figure out their needs, the more you solve their problems and their needs, the more they rely on you as a third-party seller. And that works your way into building a relationship and eventually down the line exclusivity and that sort of a thing.
Right. Yeah. And if you guys want some more information on actually building a relationship, this was several months back. I did a 45-minute discourse it's my blueprint video. I pitch it all the time. It's free on YouTube, and it can provide you guys with a ton of value in how to build a relationship and how to take maybe a wholesale account that you have with a brand and actually convert that wholesale account into either a selective or an exclusive agreement. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that link and just drop it in here.
Yeah, it's an amazing video. If you haven't seen that and you are attempting to or thinking about doing brand direct wholesale, it is an absolute must watch. I mean, every component from finding brands to reaching out to them to like granular, broken down, simplified, just so well thought out and cohesive. It's a must watch for sure. So that link is in the chat here. Check that out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, great video. Spent a lot of time on that one. Got the whiteboard and everything, so I break it down, for the beginner.
Without the whiteboard,
wasn't even a video without the whiteboard.
Completely illegitimate if you didn't have the whiteboard, if you ask me.
Right. Yeah. So we're coming up here on an hour. If you guys have any last minute questions, drop them down in here. We love answering these questions. We go live every single Wednesday. And if this is your first live with us, tune in next time, because it's not the same redundant information every time. It's a lot of unique and valuable information, and you get two people, so you get two different perspectives on different situations and problems.
Usually it's the same answer for everything. but
Yeah, but we say it in different ways.
Yeah,
I think it's applicable in multi-dimensional.
I'm usually good for an analogy or two. Usually,
well, that's your forte is analogies.
I save those up. I write. It's my spare time. Like, what can I use on this week's Wholesale Wednesday?
Yeah, so we got one last minute question here. How much of a difference in price have you guys noticed between brands and authorized distributors? That's totally case by case. I mean, there's, we've had products that are actually, we buy from a distributor, and I've talked with the brand, and the distributor's pricing is cheaper than the brand. And you're saying to yourself, how's this even possible? Well, it's because the distributor buys in such volume that their pricing is lower than you could ever get with the brand. So it's case by case. It is really case by case. In a traditional line of thinking, you might think, okay, if I'm buying directly from the brand, then I'm cutting out the middleman and I'm getting the products profitably. Many cases that's true, but there's also a lot of cases where you could actually buy from a distributor who's buying in massive volume from that brand, and they can get you better pricing than the brand can. So it's assess your options for sure.
Yeah, the thing with brands versus distributors, it's not always price. It's how to build a relationship and how to, there's other elements other than price that makes us work with brands. It's not because we're always getting the product cheaper. It's because we have the ability to grow and develop the relationship and, move into an exclusive and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Question here also just says, how do you guys deal with the shipping? I've sent a shipment in. It's been 15 days and I haven't seen it check into Amazon yet. I feel you, man. That is the problem that we're all facing now. You're going to hate this answer, but ship your stuff early. 2D barcodes help if you have access to those. Small parcel is quicker than LTL. And pray that you have a good fulfillment center that checks your items in. But there's nothing that you can do better than shipping your items in early, significantly earlier than you think.
Yeah, especially right now. Like right now, it's been very bad with the check-in times with Amazon. And then you throw Q4 on top of that. So, maybe going back in January, it wasn't as bad, but Q4 is always, it gets worse. But right now, as a whole, it is long check-in times. So, like Brandon said, if you're not familiar and using 2D barcodes, it's just a barcode that gets applied in the box that can potentially help your shipment get checked in faster, because all Amazon's got to do is scan the barcode. There's many softwares out there, third-party softwares that you can use with 2D barcodes. But if you're sending your shipments in Seller Central, Amazon does not provide you a way to directly print 2D barcodes. So you'd have to be using a third-party shipping service. Following up on the same question, we have Inventory Lab. Boxum is a great software. 2D Workflow is another great software. So there's many good softwares out there that can provide you with a nice workflow and provide you the going to use 2D barcodes. So, I mean, we would recommend, either Inventory Lab, Boxum, they're both going to be able to provide you with what you need. It's just a matter of what the other components within that software you're looking for, because that's another story. There's other components within the software that you could use. But if it's purely for a shipping standpoint, any of those will work for you. And yeah, that's that. Get it in early. We're closing in here on 8 o'clock. It's time to eat. I'm hungry. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you're not tuning in every week, join us 7 o'clock Eastern. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button. Really helps out the videos and the algorithm. Any last minute remarks?
If there's any other questions that we didn't get to, feel free to always, comment them on any of the social media platforms. We usually get to all of our questions, and we're happy to answer them for you guys, and appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.